All right, gather round, because today we're diving deep into a story that reshaped an entire mythology. A story that explains why the Norse myths are filled with such profound darkness, why their gods seem so desperate, and why Ragnarök feels like an inescapable fate. We're talking about something far older, far more foundational than even the gods themselves. There are some things that should never, ever be broken. And it's not because they're fragile, like a delicate piece of glass. No, it's because these things, these fundamental truths, actually hold everything together. They're the invisible glue, the silent architecture of existence itself. The ancient Norse, those incredible storytellers and thinkers, understood this on a level most of us can barely comprehend today. They knew that the universe wasn't just governed by physical laws, the way gravity works or how the stars move. No, they believed it was held together by something far more intricate, by agreements, by rites, by sacred patterns woven into the very fabric of existence since before even the gods walked the 9 realms. These weren't just quaint traditions, you know. They weren't cultural customs that people could just decide to change on a whim. Oh no. These were structural. Think of them like the bones that give your body its shape and allow you to stand upright, or the deep, unyielding foundations that support a massive building. If you break those, if you shatter those essential structures, well, everything just collapses, doesn't it? The entire edifice of reality crumbles. And there was one rite, one ancient, truly sacred, absolutely unbreakable rite that actually preceded all others. It was a rite so fundamental, so intrinsically powerful, that even the mighty gods themselves dared not speak its name too often. It was the ultimate cosmic bond, holding together the living and the dead, connecting all the various realms, and meticulously maintaining that delicate, razor-thin balance between order and utter chaos. This rite was called Gjallarbru, not the Rainbow Bridge, Bifrost, that you probably know from the Marvel movies or even the more popular Norse sagas. No, this was an older bridge, a different kind of bridge. A bridge made not of shimmering light and vibrant colors, but of sound, of words spoken and promises faithfully kept, of oaths solemnly honored and debts meticulously repaid. This Gjallarbru, this bridge of echoing, existed in the most subtle of spaces, the space between a breath and the first word spoken, between an intention forming in your mind and the action that follows, between a thought taking shape and reality itself. And it was maintained, it was upheld, by one single, unchanging, immutable rule. What is promised must be fulfilled. What is spoken can never be unspoken. What is bound, truly bound, can never be severed. For millennia, this incredible rite held firm. Gods and mortals alike honored it without question, without doubt. Why? Because everyone, from the highest deity to the humblest farmer, understood that to break it, to violate this fundamental law, would be to invite something far, far worse than mere death, worse than even utter destruction. It would invite unmaking, the dissolution of meaning itself. Everything would become hollow. But then, the unthinkable happened. Loki broke it, and this wasn't an accident. This wasn't some ignorant mistake born of carelessness. No. Loki broke Gjallarbru deliberately, consciously. He knew exactly what he was doing, the full, terrifying weight of his actions. And in that singular, audacious act of cosmic defiance, an act that echoed across all realms, he unleashed a curse upon the North, a curse that has never been lifted, a curse that still echoes through the realms, even now. A curse that changed not just the fate of the gods themselves, but the very nature of reality. It twisted everything. If you have the courage to truly understand what Loki did, if you can bear to know what he broke and why, if you can live with the profound knowledge that some things, once broken, can simply never, ever be repaired, then I urge you, remain with me. Because this, my friends, is the story that explains everything. Everything about why the Norse myths feel so dark, so heavy with impending doom. Why the gods are so desperate, so frantic in their struggle against fate. Why Ragnarök, the twilight of the gods, feels so terrifyingly inevitable. Why trust between beings, whether gods or mortals, became such an impossible, fragile thing. Why oaths became meaningless whispers on the wind. Why words, once potent forces, lost their very power, their weight, their ability to shape reality. All of it, every single thread, traces back to one pivotal moment, one catastrophic choice, one singular breaking. Welcome, my friends, to the hidden curse of the North. May you be strong enough to carry this knowledge, to truly grasp its implications. To understand what Loki broke, you first need to truly understand what the world was like when the Rite of Gjallarbru was still intact, still whole. You need to grasp the incredible, tangible power of binding words in that ancient time. In the ancient North, words weren't merely sounds that came out of your mouth. They weren't just tools for simple communication, like we think of them today. Oh no, words were forces. They were living, breathing entities. They shaped reality itself. When a vulva, a powerful seeress, spoke a prophecy, it didn't just predict the future, it created the future. The very act of speaking made it so. The words themselves brought it into being. When a warrior, with honor and conviction, swore an oath, it wasn't just a promise, a casual commitment. It was a binding, a magical contract, absolutely unbreakable, that physically connected the speaker to their word. Break that oath, and you wouldn't just feel bad about it. You would feel it in your body. You would feel it in your very soul. The universe itself, the very fabric of existence, would turn against you. That's how powerful these words were. This was the profound power of Gjallarbru, the bridge of echoing. Every single word spoken with true intention, with conviction, crossed this bridge. Every promise made was not just remembered, it was recorded in its very structure, becoming a part of its unyielding framework. Every vow, every oath, every sacred declaration, it became part of the fundamental architecture of reality. It was literally built into the world. And the bridge didn't just record these words, it enforced them. Not necessarily through what we would call punishment, not in a vengeful way, but through an inevitable system of consequence. If you promised something and failed, truly failed, to deliver, the bridge would extract payment another way, perhaps through a sudden, inexplicable illness, perhaps through a string of crushing misfortune, perhaps through the suffering of those you loved most. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, balanced itself. What was promised simply had to be fulfilled, one way or another. This made words sacred. This made promises powerful beyond measure. This made oaths terrifying in their weight. Because once you spoke with intention, once you invoked the bridge, whether you realized it or not, you were bound. Absolutely, irrevocably, forever. There was no escape. Even the gods themselves, those mighty, immortal beings, were bound by this right. Odin, the All-Father, the wisest of them all, could not lie. Not because he was morally incapable, or because he was some paragon of virtue, but because if he spoke an untruth with full intention, invoking the power of Gjallarbru, the bridge would literally break him. Thor, the mighty thunder god, could not break his word. Freya, the goddess of love and war, could not betray a vow. Even Loki, yes, even Loki the trickster, the master of deceit, honored this right. For millennia. Why? Because everyone, even the most chaotic among them, understood that some rules simply were not meant to be broken, that some structures were fundamental, that some things were sacred, not because the gods arbitrarily declared them so, but because reality itself declared them so. The bridge was one of those things. It was a cosmic truth. And so, the Norse people lived in a world where words had true weight, where promises meant something tangible, where you could trust, absolutely trust, that if someone swore an oath to you, the universe itself would enforce it. It was a world of brutal honesty, of terrifying responsibility, but also, crucially, a world of certainty. You knew where you stood. You knew what to expect. You knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that words were bonds. And then Loki broke it. Thank you for tuning into this deep dive into the hidden truths of Norse mythology. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next journey into the ancient world. Your support means the world. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving deep into a figure many think they know, Loki. But before we get into the wild tales and trickery, I need you to set aside everything you think you understand about him. Because Loki was not evil. He was not a monster. He was not mindlessly destructive, not in the way many portray him. No, Loki was a philosopher, a brilliant, unsettling, and profoundly curious being who questioned everything. He saw the glaring contradictions in the world around him, the unspoken hypocrisies, and the hidden mechanisms of power. He understood that sometimes the systems that claim to be just, that promise order and stability, are actually instruments of oppression. They might look beautiful on the surface, but underneath, they're crushing spirits and stifling growth. And the ancient rite of Gjallerbru, for all its power, for all its certainty, it was exactly one of those systems. It was a prison, a gilded cage woven from words and unbreakable promises. Think about it. Imagine living in a world where every single word you uttered bound you, not just legally, but fundamentally, spiritually, to the very fabric of existence. It meant you could never change your mind. You could never grow past your youthful mistakes. You could never evolve as a person. If you swore loyalty to someone when you were young, full of idealism and naivete, you were bound to that person forever, even if they later became a tyrant, a monster, or simply someone you no longer respected. If you promised to do something before you fully understood its consequences, before you grasped the monumental weight of your pledge, you still had to do it. No matter the cost, no matter the regret. If you made a simple mistake in your words, a misspoken phrase, a moment of clumsiness with language, the universe itself would hold you to that mistake forever. The Gjallerbru, the bridge of bound words, ensured it. It created certainty, yes, absolute unyielding certainty. But it also created stagnation. It made the universe rigid, inflexible, and fundamentally unable to adapt, to grow, to breathe. It was a beautiful, terrible masterpiece of cosmic control. And Loki saw this. He saw it with a clarity that most of the gods, caught in their own power and privilege, could not or would not acknowledge. He saw how the Aesir, the mighty gods of Asgard, used this right to maintain their iron grip on power. They would carefully word their commands, crafting intricate linguistic traps so that mortals and even lesser gods were bound to obey them, often without fully realizing the extent of their commitment. He watched as they would extract oaths from giants, from ancient beings, and then cunningly use those very oaths to destroy them, to bend them to their will, or to justify their ultimate downfall. He observed how they would promise one thing in public, dazzling the masses with grand pronouncements, but mean something entirely different in private. They'd use the inherent ambiguity of language to remain technically truthful, maintaining their divine honor, while being functionally, devastatingly deceptive. The rite of Gjallerbru was supposed to create justice. It was meant to ensure order, to uphold truth, to bind the universe in a tapestry of unbreakable vows. But instead, it had become something far darker. It had morphed into a tool, a weapon, a way for the powerful to bind the weak, to maintain the status quo, to ensure their dominance by literally tying others to their will. And Loki? Loki couldn't stand it. His philosophical mind, his inherent quest for truth and freedom, chafed against this cosmic leash. He tried to work within the system at first. He wasn't immediately a radical. He tried to use his legendary cleverness, his quick wit, and his unparalleled mastery of language. He tried to find loopholes, to twist words in ways that would free people, or beings, from unfair, oppressive bindings. And he was good at it. Too good. The gods, particularly Odin, began to fear his silver tongue. They recognized the danger he posed to their carefully constructed order. They began to restrict what he could say, to cage his words, to force him into oaths that specifically limited his ability to speak freely, to question, to challenge. They tried to bind the binder, and eventually, Loki came to a stark, devastating realization. This system, the very foundation of their universe, could never be reformed. It was too deeply embedded, too fundamentally flawed, too essential to the gods' power. It could only be broken. The catalyst came during a feast, a grand, glittering feast in Asgard, meant to be a celebration, a time of joy, unity, and endless merriment. But Loki, ever the observer, saw something chilling that night. He saw Odin, the All-Father, extract an oath from a young goddess. She was naive, fresh to the halls of Asgard, and full of youthful idealism. She didn't understand the full, terrifying weight of what she was promising. Odin, with his masterful command of the Rite, made her swear to serve him until the end of days. And the Gjallarbru recorded it. It bound it. It made it real, an unchangeable, inescapable cosmic truth. And Loki watched, his heart heavy as the young goddess realized, far too late, what she had done. He watched as she tried to take back her words, her eyes wide with dawning horror. He watched as the universe rejected her desperate attempt, the Gjallarbru shimmering with an indifferent finality. And he watched as she wept, understanding that she had just sworn away her entire existence, her future, her very being, to the will of another, forever. And something in Loki snapped. Before I tell you what Loki did next, before I describe how he dared to break that ancient sacred rite, I need you to ask yourself something. Really pause and consider this. Pause, 3 seconds. Is a law that cannot be questioned, that stands above all reason and dissent, truly just? Is a system that cannot adapt, that rigidifies everything into an unchangeable form, truly good? Is a structure that binds people to promises they made without full understanding, without true free will, truly moral? Think carefully, because your answer to this question will profoundly determine how you see what Loki did next. Some will look upon his actions and say he was a destroyer, a villain who unleashed chaos upon the world, breaking something sacred for selfish reasons, for petty revenge, for pure malice. Others will say he was a liberator, a revolutionary who freed beings from an oppressive system, a hero who sacrificed everything, his reputation, his peace, perhaps even his sanity, to give others the possibility of choice, the chance to evolve, to change their minds, to truly be free. And here's the unsettling truth. Both are true. Both are false. Because what Loki did exists beyond simple, neat morality. It exists in that terrible, awe-inspiring space where justice and destruction become the same thing, where liberation and curse are indistinguishable, where the right choice, the necessary choice, is also undeniably the wrong choice, the destructive choice. So I'm asking you now, directly, if you could break a law that was undeniably unjust, but also utterly fundamental to the universe as you know it, if you could destroy a structure that oppressed countless beings, but also, paradoxically, held everything together, would you? If you're willing to consider that maybe, just maybe, Loki's infamous crime was also an act of profound, terrifying courage. If you believe that his curse was also, in a strange, twisted way, a gift, that his breaking of the universe was also, for many, a freeing, then write in the comments right now, I question the ancient rite. Pause, 3 seconds. Do it. Because what comes next in Loki's story will challenge everything you think you know about right and wrong, about order and chaos, about what it truly means to be bound, and what it means to be free. Thanks for watching, everyone. If this video got you thinking, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement truly helps this channel grow, and I love hearing your perspectives. Until next time, stay curious. A dramatic, low-toned instrumental intro begins, then fades slightly as I start speaking. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a story from Norse mythology, not one you might find in every textbook, but one that explores a profound question. What happens when words lose their power? What if the very fabric of trust, of promises, of oaths, was ripped apart? Because according to some ancient tales, that's exactly what Loki did, and the consequences, they still echo through the 9 realms. Imagine a feast. The gods gathered in Asgard are drinking, laughing, celebrating their power, their eternal certainty. Odin, Thor, Freya, all of them secure in their dominion. And then there's Loki, silent, watching, planning. He's seen the world, seen the order enforced by the gods, and he finds it unbearable. He's decided something radical, something unthinkable. He wants to break Gjallarbru, Now, Gjallerbru wasn't just a physical bridge connecting worlds. It was something far deeper. It was the bridge of binding words, the cosmic mechanism that enforced oaths, promises, and intentions. It was why a sworn vow mattered, why a promise held true. To break it wouldn't be like knocking down a stone arch. It would mean unmaking something woven into the very reality of existence, and Loki knew it couldn't be done casually. It would require something more fundamental than simply refusing a promise. It would require speaking the unspeakable. There was a word in the ancient tongue, a word not forbidden by law, but by nature itself. A word that, if spoken with full intention and power, would unravel binding. That word was Ride. It roughly translates to severing storm, but that doesn't capture its true essence. Ride meant something profound. The exact moment when connection transforms into separation, when unity shatters into division, when structure collapses into chaos. This word had never been uttered, not since the dawn of time, because everyone understood its devastating power. To speak it was to break the bridge, to end the rite, to unleash consequences that could never, ever be undone. But Loki was tired of the old ways. He knew what he had to do. He stood up, right there, in the middle of the boisterous feast. He raised his cup. The gods fell silent, a ripple of expectation moving through the hall. They probably thought he was about to deliver one of his famously clever, often sarcastic speeches. Maybe a witty toast. But instead, Loki just spoke the word, Ride, and the universe screamed. Not a sound you could hear with your ears, but a sensation, a visceral, agonizing feeling that tore through every single realm simultaneously. It was the sensation of something absolutely fundamental being ripped apart. The bridge of Gjallerbru, that ancient, invisible structure made of binding words, it shattered. Not physically, no. No cosmic explosions or cracking arches. It simply, conceptually ceased to exist. It was gone. And in that instant, everything changed. Every oath ever sworn suddenly became questionable. Every promise ever made became uncertain. Every word ever spoken with intention became just words. The binding was gone. The enforcement was gone. The certainty was gone. Odin, ever perceptive, stood immediately. His face wasn't etched with anger, but with something far worse, sheer terror, because he understood instantly the magnitude of Loki's act. "Do you know what you've unleashed?" Odin whispered, his voice trembling with a gravity that could shake mountains. Loki, with a smile that held no joy, no triumph, only a weary resignation, replied, "Freedom." "No," Odin countered, shaking his head slowly. "Chaos. Without the rite, without the bridge, there is nothing to bind beings to their word. There is nothing to enforce justice. There is nothing to prevent betrayal, deception, cruelty, without consequence." "There was already betrayal," Loki said, his voice flat. "There was already deception. You just called it law. You just called it order. You just used the right to make oppression seem sacred. And what will you use instead?" Odin demanded, his voice rising. "If words mean nothing, if promises can be broken without consequence, if oaths are meaningless, what will hold the 9 realms together?" And Loki had no answer. He genuinely didn't know. He had broken the rite, yes, but he had no blueprint for what would come next. He only knew that the old system was unbearable. And sometimes you have to destroy before you can even begin to rebuild, even if you have no idea what that rebuilding will look like. The effects weren't immediate, not in the dramatic way you might expect. The universe didn't crack open. The bridge didn't collapse with a thunderclap. At first, nothing seemed to change. Life went on. But then, slowly, subtly, people began to notice. A warrior who had sworn a sacred blood oath to his brother betrayed him. And nothing happened. No divine curse descended. No automatic punishment came. The universe, in its new silent indifference, just allowed it. A merchant who had promised to deliver precious goods simply kept them and suffered no consequence. A wise vulva who had prophesied a clear and certain future watched in bewilderment as that future simply didn't happen. Her words had created nothing. They were just sounds in the wind. At first, people thought these were isolated incidents, mistakes, anomalies. But then it kept happening. More betrayals, more broken promises, more words that meant absolutely nothing. And slowly, agonizingly, people began to understand. The binding was truly gone. Words had lost their power. Oaths meant nothing. Promises could be broken without a flicker of consequence. And with that dawning understanding came terror. Because if words truly meant nothing, if promises could be broken at whim, if oaths were utterly powerless, then how could anyone trust anyone? How could agreements be made? How could societies function? How could even the most basic relationships exist? The curse of Loki's breaking wasn't chaos in the sense of random destruction, of meteors falling and worlds colliding. It was chaos in the deeper, more insidious sense of uncertainty. The profound inability to know if someone meant what they said. The impossibility of trusting, truly trusting, another being. The constant gnawing fear that every word spoken was a potential lie, every agreement a potential trap. The 9 realms began to fracture. Not immediately, not violently, but gradually. Communities that had been held together for centuries by sacred oaths began to dissolve. Alliances that had been based on ironclad, sworn agreements collapsed into infighting and suspicion. Even families, once bound by ancestral vows and the weight of their word, split apart. Because without the bridge, without the invisible, universal enforcement of words, there was nothing to hold anyone to anything, and the gods watched, helpless, in horror, because they realized that Loki, for all his destructive intent, had been right about one thing. The Rite had been a tool of control, but it had also been the only thing preventing total dissolution. Odin, desperate, tried to recreate the bridge. He gathered the most powerful vulvas. He attempted to reweave the magic. He poured all his divine might into restoring the binding power of words. But it couldn't be done, because Rid, the word Loki had spoken, was not just a spell that could be countered. It was a fundamental unmaking, a breaking that existed on the level of reality itself. You can't unbreak what has been broken on that level. You can only adapt. And so, the gods had to find new ways. Ways that didn't rely on sacred binding. Ways that relied instead on force, on surveillance, on punishment rather than automatic natural consequence. They created visible laws. They created powerful enforcers. They created systems of control that were overt and often brutal, rather than the invisible natural enforcement of the bridge. And the world became darker, harsher, more cruel. Because the gentle, subtle enforcement of the bridge, the natural, inescapable consequence of breaking one's word, was replaced by the violent, heavy-handed enforcement of divine authority. And that violence, that harshness, that darkness, that is the curse. The curse that Loki unwittingly unleashed. The curse that, in some tellings, still echoes through the north. It's the curse that made the Norse world what it became, a place where trust is rare, where betrayal is common, where words are cheap and easily discarded, where only blood and steel, brute force and fear can truly enforce agreements. Not because the Norse people were inherently dark or untrustworthy, but because Loki broke the Rite, and the world that emerged from that breaking was a world without sacred certainty, a world where the greatest power, the greatest freedom, came with the greatest, most terrifying cost. So, what do you think? Was Loki truly bringing freedom, or just unbridled chaos? Could a world without the binding power of words ever truly thrive? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this dive into Norse mythology intriguing, please hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into ancient tales and their timeless lessons. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into Norse mythology, but we're going to look at it through a lens you might not have considered before. Get ready, because once you grasp this one core idea, everything you thought you knew about the Norse gods, Ragnarök, and even Loki is about to make a whole lot more sense. So imagine this: an ancient rite, a fundamental law that held the very fabric of the cosmos together. A law that made words binding, oaths unbreakable, and promises as solid as the mountains. Now imagine Loki, the trickster, breaking that rite. Not just doing something naughty, but fundamentally shattering the spiritual contract that governed the universe. Once you see that the binding power of words was severed, a massive cosmic domino effect begins. Suddenly, Ragnarök isn't just some prophesied end, it becomes inevitable. Why? Because without that sacred bridge, that ancient rite, the gods could no longer simply bind the forces of chaos with mere words. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, Jormungandr, the world serpent, Hel, the ruler of the underworld, Loki's own children, ironically, could no longer be held by oaths and promises. They had to be held by physical chains. And what's the problem with physical chains? They can always be broken. The gods moved from spiritual control to brute force, and that was a losing game from the start. This breakdown also explains Odin's increasing desperation for knowledge. Think about it. If the future is no longer fixed by the power of sacred speech, if prophecies lose their inherent power, and visions become unreliable, what's a chief god to do? Odin had to search for knowledge through increasingly brutal sacrifices, through pain, through deprivation, methods that didn't rely on the old magic, the binding words that Loki had shattered. He was trying to rebuild certainty in a world suddenly adrift. And Loki's punishment. It wasn't just for Baldur's death, though that was certainly a major trigger. The deeper, more profound reason he was punished so severely was for breaking that fundamental rite, for unleashing a curse that permeated the entire cosmos. The gods blamed him for everything that went wrong afterward. Every betrayal, every broken promise, every loss of faith. It all traced back to Loki because he had snapped the one thing that held their world together. This unraveling of the cosmic order also sheds light on why the Norse myths are so full of betrayal and tragedy. After the breaking, trust became a luxury, almost impossible. Characters constantly doubt each other, constantly suspect hidden motives, constantly prepare for betrayal. They live in a world where words are cheap, where oaths can be broken with impunity, where promises are empty echoes. How do you build a stable society, let alone a stable pantheon, when the very foundation of trust has crumbled? Consider Valhalla. Why was it so important to Odin? Before the breaking, Odin could promise warriors an afterlife, binding them to his service through sacred words and divine oaths. But after Loki's act, those immaterial promises lost their power. So, Odin had to create something material, something tangible. Valhalla became a physical place, a visible promise that didn't rely on faith in words alone. He had to make the promise material because immaterial promises, promises made of mere words, had become worthless. And the gods themselves, often appearing cruel and capricious in the myths, they weren't necessarily evil, but they were desperately trying to maintain order in a world without the natural enforcement of that ancient rite. They had to resort to fear, to violence, to manipulation. The gentle, invisible enforcement of binding words was gone, replaced by a clumsy, often brutal scramble for control. But here's the most mind-blowing part, and something truly profound. Why does Ragnarök end with rebirth? Because the breaking of the rite wasn't just destruction. It was also, in a strange, twisted way, liberation. Yes, it unleashed chaos. Yes, it made trust incredibly difficult. Yes, it darkened the world. But it also freed beings from the tyranny of absolute binding. It made genuine choice possible. It made growth possible. It made change possible. Ragnarök, the destruction of the old world and the death of the old gods, becomes necessary, not because the gods were inherently evil, but because the world they tried to maintain after the breaking was unsustainable. It was a world built on force rather than faith, on control rather than cooperation, on fear rather than trust. And such a world cannot last forever. Eventually, it must collapse. And from that collapse, something new can emerge. A new world. Perhaps one where trust can exist again, but not based on magical enforcement. Instead, it would be based on something deeper, something more authentic. Choice. Genuine choice. Not binding, not compulsion, not magical enforcement, but the choice to honor your word because you want to, because you freely decided to, because you understand that keeping promises creates a better world than breaking them. That, my friends, is the hidden gift within Loki's curse, the possibility of authentic integrity. Not integrity enforced by the universe itself, but chosen by conscious beings. Now, I need you to pause and think about your own life. Pause. 3 seconds. You live in a world after the breaking. Not literally, of course, but metaphorically. You live in a world where words have, let's be honest, lost much of their power. Where promises are broken casually. Where oaths mean little more than a fleeting breath. Where I swear is just a phrase, and I promise is often forgotten as soon as it's spoken. You too live in Loki's world, the world after the curse. And you feel the consequences, the difficulty of trust, the constant suspicion in interactions, the need to protect yourself because you never truly know who will betray you, the sheer exhaustion of living in a world where words are so cheap, where truth feels so elusive. But here's the crucial question. Would you want to go back? Would you genuinely want to live in a world where every single word you spoke was magically binding? Where every promise you made, however carelessly, was enforced by the universe itself? A world where you could never change your mind, never grow beyond your younger self's commitments, never escape from oaths you made before you truly understood their consequences? Or would you rather live in this uncertain world? This world where words can be lies. This world where promises can be broken. But also this world where you're fundamentally free, where you can choose to honor your word or not, where integrity is a choice, a powerful act of will rather than an imposition. I want you to write in the comments right now, I live in Loki's world. Do it if you understand what I'm asking. Do it if you see that the curse is also, in its own way, a gift. Do it if you recognize that freedom and uncertainty are two sides of the same coin, inseparable partners in our human experience. Do it now. Pause. 3 seconds. Because what comes next, in future videos, is where we explore what it truly means to live authentically in a world without magical enforcement. What it means to choose integrity when you don't have to. What it means to keep promises when the universe won't punish you for breaking them. It's a profound challenge, but also an incredible opportunity for genuine human connection. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into Norse mythology and its surprising connections to our modern world. If you found this thought-provoking, please hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into these fascinating ideas. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and choose your words wisely. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a fascinating question. How do you live in a world after everything has changed? How do you function in a reality where the old rules no longer apply, where words, once sacred and binding, have lost their magic? This isn't just a philosophical musing. It's a challenge the ancient Norse faced head-on. After Loki, the trickster god, broke a fundamental cosmic right, they found themselves in a world forever altered. The consequences were profound. Words no longer carried inherent, magical binding power. You couldn't just swear an oath and expect the universe to enforce it automatically. So they had to adapt. They had to invent new systems, new ways of building trust, and new methods to ensure agreements were kept. And honestly, their solutions, their incredible adaptations, are incredibly instructive for us even today. They offer a powerful lens through which to view trust, honor, and community in any age. Now picture this, a world where a sworn promise doesn't automatically seal the deal with cosmic certainty. It's a scary thought, right? How do you maintain order? How do you build relationships? The Norse came up with several ingenious responses, and we're going to explore 5 of their most powerful adaptations. Each one offers a unique insight into how societies and individuals can navigate profound shifts and rebuild foundations. First up, they develop the concept of frith. Now, frith is so much more than just peace. Think of it as this intricate living tapestry woven from mutual obligations, deep relationships, and shared expectations within an entire community. It wasn't some law enforced by magic or divine intervention. No, frith was enforced by something far more human, and in some ways more potent: social pressure. It was all about reputation. Everyone understood that if you betrayed someone within this frith, if you broke those unspoken bonds, the entire community would turn against you. It wasn't because the universe demanded it. It was because the community collectively chose to enforce it. They decided, this is how we maintain our cohesion. Now, don't get me wrong, this system wasn't perfect. Humans are messy after all. It could be manipulated, it could fail, and certainly not everyone always adhered to it perfectly. But here's the crucial point: it was something. It became a powerful substitute for that lost cosmic bridge, a human-created structure designed to replace the cosmic one. It built a framework for trust and cooperation, not through magic, but through shared understanding and collective accountability. It's a powerful reminder that even when external guarantees crumble, human communities can still forge their own robust systems of order. Second, they dramatically elevated the concept of honor. In a world where external forces couldn't automatically punish a broken word, the weight shifted inward. Honor became the internal enforcement mechanism for one's word. It wasn't about the universe punishing you for breaking a promise. Oh no. It was about you punishing yourself. How? Through the crushing weight of shame, through the deep, gnawing loss of self-respect, and through the profound knowledge that you had betrayed your own core values. This adaptation was revolutionary because it placed the ultimate responsibility for integrity squarely on the individual. Keeping your word became a deliberate choice, a conscious cultivation of character, rather than just an automatic consequence of a magical oath. Imagine the internal strength this required. It meant that integrity wasn't just about avoiding external punishment. It was about upholding your own internal code, your personal standard of worth. This made honor not just a societal expectation, but a deeply personal, almost sacred commitment. It transformed integrity into an act of self-authorship, where your character was forged by the promises you chose to keep, even when no one else was watching. Third, and perhaps surprisingly, they recognized that a certain level of distrust was actually healthy. In Loki's broken world, constantly guarding yourself wasn't paranoia, it was pure realism. Preparing for potential betrayal wasn't cynicism, it was wisdom. To assume everyone would automatically keep their word in a world where words could be broken was, frankly, foolish. This might make the Norse seem harsh, perhaps even suspicious or a bit dark to modern eyes. But it wasn't about being inherently pessimistic. It was about adaptation. It was about survival. It was learning to navigate and thrive in a world where the old guarantees were gone. This wasn't about living in fear, but about living with eyes wide open. It fostered a culture of discernment, encouraging individuals to evaluate character and assess risk before extending absolute trust. It meant that trust, when given, was earned, not assumed, and that made the trust they did place all the more valuable. This pragmatic approach highlights a crucial lesson. Sometimes a healthy dose of skepticism isn't a weakness. It's a strength, especially when navigating uncertain terrain. It teaches us to be discerning, to understand the realities of human nature, and to build trust on solid ground, rather than on naive assumptions. Fourth, they created elaborate systems of witnessed oaths. If a promise couldn't be magically binding anymore, it could at least be publicly witnessed. This was genius. Imagine a significant agreement, a trade deal, a marriage pact, an alliance. It wasn't just a handshake in a dark corner. No, it was made in front of an assembly, with key figures, family members, and often the entire community present. Everyone knew exactly what was promised. And because everyone knew, everyone could hold the promiser accountable. This transformed private agreements into communal contracts. Suddenly, breaking a promise didn't just mean betraying one person, It meant betraying the entire community that had witnessed the oath, the entire social fabric that had gathered to lend its collective weight to the agreement. It made betrayal incredibly difficult because the social cost was immense. You weren't just facing the anger of one individual, you were facing the disappointment, the scorn, and potentially the collective retribution of your entire society. It is a powerful testament to the idea that community oversight can be a tremendous force for upholding integrity, especially when supernatural enforcement is off the table. It demonstrates how collective witnessing can elevate an individual commitment to a shared societal responsibility. And fifth, perhaps most importantly, and something I think we can all deeply resonate with today, they learned to truly value the people who chose to keep their word. Think about it. In a world where words were magically binding, keeping your word was just expected. It was automatic. It was required. There wasn't much virtue in it. It was just the consequence of the universe. But in a world where words could be broken without cosmic consequence, in a world where you could lie and get away with it, choosing to tell the truth became incredibly meaningful. Choosing to keep your promises became exceptionally valuable. And choosing integrity? That became genuinely heroic. Why? Because it wasn't mandatory. It was voluntary. And voluntary virtue is always more admirable, more profound, and ultimately more impactful than virtue that is compelled or enforced. It speaks to a deeper strength of character, a conscious commitment to goodness. These adaptations didn't restore the world to what it was before Loki's intervention. They didn't magically recreate the certainty of that old cosmic bridge. But what they did create was something else entirely. In some profound ways, what emerged was even better. They forged a world where trust, when it existed, was undeniably real. It wasn't enforced by magic. It wasn't compelled by divine law. It was genuinely chosen, painstakingly built, and fiercely defended. It became a world where keeping your word mattered more precisely because it was harder to do. It was a world where integrity had greater value because it was rarer, a precious commodity. And crucially, the bonds between people who genuinely trusted each other were stronger than ever, because they weren't guaranteed by some external magical force. They were maintained by choice, by conscious effort, and by the daily deliberate decision to honor that relationship, to uphold that promise. This, my friends, is the profound wisdom that emerged from Loki's curse. This is how you learn to live, and even thrive, in a world after the breaking. It's a powerful lesson in resilience, human ingenuity, and the enduring power of conscious choice. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through Norse wisdom. If you found this video insightful, please give it a big thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you do not miss our next deep dive. Your support truly means the world. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into a story that's far more profound than it first appears. It's not just about Loki or ancient Norse mythology, fascinating as that is. No, this story is actually about a transition that every single civilization, every culture, and even every one of us as individuals goes through. It's the journey from a world of enforced morality to a world of chosen morality. Think about your childhood for a moment. For most of us, we lived in a world with a bridge. Our parents set the rules, teachers enforced discipline, and the universe, as we understood it then, seemed to automatically reward good and punish bad. Words felt incredibly binding because authority figures made sure they were. You kept your promises because you had to, or there would be consequences, right? But then, as we grow older, as we mature, we start to discover something significant. That bridge, it's an illusion. We realize that rules can sometimes be broken without cosmic punishment. That those authority figures we once revered, they're often flawed, inconsistent, just as human as us. And the universe itself, it doesn't actually care whether you keep your promises. Words, suddenly, are just words. They don't inherently carry the weight they once did. This is a kind of breaking, a personal Loki moment, if you will. It's when you realize that morality isn't some natural law enforced by the cosmos. It's something chosen by individuals. And this realization, This profound shift can send you down one of two very different paths. Some people, they become cynical. They think, if nothing is truly enforced, then nothing really matters. I can lie, I can cheat, betray, and there won't be any cosmic consequence. They become the embodiment of the curse, the darkness that Loki symbolically unleashed. They see the broken bridge and decide to build nothing in its place, just exploit the chasm. But then there are others. These individuals choose differently. They think, if morality isn't enforced, then my choice to be moral, my decision to keep my word when I absolutely don't have to, that makes it truly meaningful. That makes it real. They become the embodiment of the hidden gift within that curse, the profound freedom that emerges from the breaking. The ancient Norse, with all their wisdom, were trying to tell us something vital with these myths. They understood that the loss of certainty, this breaking of the bridge, is absolutely inevitable. Every person, every culture, every civilization eventually has to face that moment when they realize cosmic enforcement is an illusion. And when that moment comes, when the bridge truly breaks, you are faced with a fundamental choice. You can descend into cynicism, into betrayal, into a world where only self-interest reigns. Or you can ascend into authentic integrity, choosing to build your own bridge of commitment and trust. The curse of Loki, in a way, is that he made that second option so much harder. But the gift of Loki, he made that second option possible. Think about it. Before this breaking, there was no real choice. You kept your word because you were forced to. After the breaking, there is genuine choice. You keep your word because you choose to. And that choice, that authentic, voluntary, freely made choice to be a person of integrity, is infinitely more valuable than any magically enforced virtue could ever be. This is what the Norse understood, deep in their bones. This is why, despite the darkness and betrayal in their myths, despite all the tragedy, they still honored those who kept their word. They still deeply valued those who maintained integrity. They celebrated those who chose trust, even when it was dangerous, even when it was difficult. Because those people, those individuals, they were the true heroes. Not because the universe somehow made them heroic, but because they chose heroism in a universe that no longer demanded it. They chose to be steadfast when all external anchors were gone. So now, here you stand, at that very same crossroads. You live in a world after the breaking, a world where words can easily be lies, where promises can be shattered without an immediate bolt of lightning. A world where there's no cosmic enforcement of morality, just the raw reality of human choices. And you have to choose. What kind of person will you be? Will you exploit this uncertainty? Will you lie when it's convenient, break promises when they become inconvenient, betray others before they can betray you? That's one path. That's the path of the curse, the path of darkness, where convenience dictates your character. Or, will you choose integrity? Will you keep your word even when you don't have to? When no one is watching? When there's no immediate penalty for not doing so? Will you honor promises even when breaking them would be easier, more profitable, or less painful? Will you tell the truth, even when a lie might seem more beneficial in the short term? Will you strive to be trustworthy, even in a world where trust feels increasingly difficult to maintain? That's the other path. That's the path of the gift, the path of authentic virtue. The Norse would absolutely tell you that this second path is harder, much harder. Because you are choosing to bind yourself when nothing external is binding you. You are creating your own bridge, piece by piece, in a world where the ancient external bridge is completely broken. You are living as if words still have power, even in a universe that no longer enforces that power. But they would also tell you this: the second path is the only one worth walking. Because voluntary virtue is the only virtue that truly matters. Because chosen integrity is the only integrity that is genuinely real. Because the bonds you forge through genuine conscious trust are stronger than any magically enforced bond ever was or ever could be. This, my friends, is the profound wisdom hidden within Loki's curse. This is the ultimate lesson of the broken Rite. That freedom, true freedom, can be terrifying. That uncertainty can be incredibly painful. But that authentic choice, genuine, voluntary, freely made choice, is worth all the terror and all the pain. Because it's the only thing that makes you truly human, truly conscious, truly responsible for who you are in this vast, unpredictable universe. So do not promise lightly. Do not write those words in your mind or speak them aloud if you do not feel their immense weight. Because the world itself won't hold you to it. No one will know if you break that silent promise you make to yourself, except you. And perhaps truly, that's all that ultimately matters. The winds of the north bring no comfort, but they do bring clarity. They bring the naked truth about who you choose to be when no one is watching. The bridge, my friends, begins in you. The rebuilding starts today. And if you've heard these winds, deep down, I think you already know what to do. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps this channel grow, and I truly appreciate every single one of you. See you next time.